Hello and welcome to the first episode of the SJW MMA Breakdown. I'm your SJW, Skyler from Cali, because as goes California, so goes the nation, and everybody's leaving. Anyway, what we're going to do today is take a look at all the fights of the UFC main card of 259 and assess whether or not the event was good for diversity and equality or whether or not it was white supremacist. Now, I know what you're saying, white supremacist, those are some big words, but just listen to what Dr. Teresa Ronstedler of American University has to say about fighting and race.
They imagine that in the ring, particularly for interracial fights, that they were almost engaged in this kind of Darwinian struggle, fights between white men and black men. They became a kind of metaphor for race relations. So in other words, if a white man won, it would reinforce ideas of white supremacy. But if a black man won, then it would upend ideas of white supremacy.
And there you have it. But we know that oppression, racism, homophobia, all that stuff is much deeper than just race these days. So what we're going to do is take race, religion, sexual orientation, and more and apply it to each of the fighters in the main event and see how many intersectionality points they get. Then we need to root for the one with the most points because supremacists get negative points. And at the end of it all, see who won which bouts and how many points we have at the end of it to see whether the event itself was white supremacist or whether it was good for equality and diversity. So without further delay, let's do it today. So in our first bout, we had Thiago Santos defeated by Alexander Rakic, who is the white oppressor, so he doesn't deserve to have his name pronounced the right way. Anyway, Thiago Santos is a brown person, so he gets a point for being brown. He's foreign-born, so he gets another point because he's a brown foreign-born person, and he would have gotten a third if he didn't speak English, but he learned the language of the oppressor, and therefore he's only worth 2. Alexander Rakic, on the other hand, is white, but he is an exotic foreign-born person. So what kind of white person is he? Well, he lives in Austria, which is the second most right-wing country in the European Union. And he's also of Serbian descent, and they committed some awful crimes against the Muslim population at the end of the last century. So he carries the white man's guilt like original sin. And each of those is a point. So he defeated Thiago Santos. I'm sorry. And that means we're at a -2. So heading into the next bout, we're a little white supremacist. Let's see if we can edge it out. For the next bout, we had Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. Now, Islam was a foreign-born white person as well, and he's from Russia, which would normally be really bad because they tried to ruin our entire election with $70,000 worth of Facebook ads, and they stole it. So Russia's bad, but he's from a country, from an area of the country that actually led an insurgency against Russia. And Russia really deserves it because they used to be a communist country, but they're not anymore. On top of that, he's a Muslim, which is the only monotheistic religion that the left likes, because not only do they run and vote Democrat, but if they do become radicalized, they do things like blow stuff up and attack the West, which is responsible for their oppression anyway. They don't think about doing something horribly racist like making sure you need an ID to vote or something like that. So we have Islam Makhachev with 2 points and Drew Dober, who was defeated by him to make it even. Now, he was worth 2 points because he is like the quintessential white boy. I mean, you can't tell how intergenerationally American he is. You can't even tell his culture by his last name. So that's definitely a -1 for being a white oppressor. And look at that man's jaw. Look at that man. All the dready heady ladies that I talked to in the pink hats told me that when they just look at him, they feel lust. And that means they feel powerless over one of their passions because of a man. How dare he? So for being a good looking guy, he loses another point, but those were all canceled out because Islam won. So now we're even Steven at 0 heading into the third match. So the third bout was really controversial, but really great. We had Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. Now, we already talked about how evil Russia is, and Peter Yan is from Russia, like the Russian part of Russia, so he loses a point. He only speaks the evil Russian language, so he loses another point. And he sometimes wears an Orthodox cross to and from the octagon, so he was worth a -3. But Aljamain Sterling, he is black, so he's a +2. You get 1 for brown, but if you're really black, that's +2 intersectionality points, because the darker you are, the more oppressed you've been historically. Additionally, he gets another point because he's a Jamaican American first generation, and so he's got the exoticism going on, and he gets socioeconomic intersectionality points as well because he lived in an area that was kind of rough and some of his brothers were involved in gangs. So he has a total diversity score of 4. And he won, but it was because of an illegal knee that was just so egregious. It was not just an infraction, it was a crime. Peter Yan should have known in this day and age, you can't commit a crime against a black man with a white man's knee. That's just not gonna go over well. We're lucky we didn't have riots. We're lucky they didn't tear down Christopher Columbus and all, although he totally deserves to get torn down. But this case, justice was served like never before. The white man was made to pay for his knee against the black man. And this is a microcosm of what should be happening in Minneapolis and all over the world. The white man getting caught and paying dearly for his deliberate abuse of black and brown people. So not only does Aljo get 4 intersectionality points, but they get doubled for 8 points since there's a bonus because the bout went so well and exposed the white man for what he was, a cheater. All right, moving on to bout number 4, the ladies' bout, Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. Now, Megan's also foreign-born, another foreign-born whitey, but she's from Australia, which is an Anglo Five Eyes nation in the network of the oppressors, one of the most evil, sinister, and underhanded countries on earth. So she loses a point straight away for being part of the oppressor colonizer race. Additionally, she has an Instagram where I heard she posted some pictures that objectify her body and women in their totality as a result. So shame on her. If only she wasn't white, we could call it brave and stunning and empowering for reclaiming her body. However, she hasn't. And she could have lost a third point for being a female gamer and not directly and constantly speaking out about Gamergate and its sexism, but she did speak out about mental illness, so those things cancel each other out. So we'll call Megan a negative 2. Now, Amanda Nunez starts out with the same foreign brownness points as Santos. She gets a -2, but you can tack on another point right away for her being openly lesbian. Not only that, but she is grabbing the capitalist-influenced heteronormative structure of the American nuclear family by the neck and slamming it right on its head by having a child in a same-sex family. Now, I would feel even better if she just had the child for purely political reasons, but it seems she actually loves it, so she won't get the extra point possible for that, because if only the child was just to thumb her nose at oppressive structures, it'd be so much more meaningful. The other thing is, they are 2 lesbians and they didn't adopt. They had a baby of their own. And that's essentially exercising their wealth privilege, because they brought another child in the world that's just going to wreak havoc on the climate and the environment and all of that. I mean, just think of what could have been done in a village for the price of what her child is going to do. Think of how many kids could survive in the Congo, never mind that they've got malaria and civil wars and all that. I just don't want to hear it. So she does get a point for the selfishness of having a baby, but only 1 out of the 3 points possible, because her selfishness was done in the wrong way, in that it was motivated by love. If she had just adopted a Zimbabwean baby that she didn't care about to make a statement, wouldn't that have been even more awesome? But nonetheless, that's 4 points for her, and she defeated Megan Anderson. So now we've got 12 intersectionality points, diversity winning strong, going into the final round. So the last matchup is Jan Blachowicz against Israel Adesanya. And in that match, what's up? Another foreign white person. And how white are they? They're pretty white. He's from Poland. So as far as Multnomah County goes, they don't even consider Polish people Slavs, because they're from the former Soviet Union, according to them, which doesn't make Poles Slavs, so he doesn't get a colored point. And because he speaks such good English, he loses a point for that by one of the white oppressor class. Additionally, he's a family man. He has himself a son, and he's not married yet, but he's living as though he's a nuclear family. So that's another point minus for him. Now we have Israel Adesanya, who is black, and he gets 2 points for being black. He gets another point for being foreign born, even though he did move to an English-speaking country. It's not this one. It's still an oppressor state, so we'll just call that even and say that he is foreign born and black at a +2, +1 more, that's 3, and he does get a +4 for being the most sexually ambiguous fighter on the card. One time in the past, he even referred to himself as gender fluid. That is as ambiguous as it can get. So we have a chance that Israel Adesanya, Israel Adesanya, I'm sorry, Izzy, could be the first openly gay fighter. Now, I don't know if he's gay or not, but he could be. And he could just decide to be, because now you can decide whatever you want to be. So I think that would be a really, really good move for him and would send a really powerful message. And he would get another intersectionality point for that. But he only gets one for the ambiguity, which is 4. And we know that he lost that bout. Now, not only do we just take Jan's 2 points, but since it's the main event, he usurps those 4 points that Izzy has and takes them away for a -6. So let's take a look at the breakdown of the final scores. Okay, so our final tally is Rakic beats Santos for -2. Makhachev beats Dober for a +2, making it even Steven going into Sterling versus Yan, as Sterling doubles his 4 points, making it +8, going into Nunez versus Anderson. She makes it another +4 for 12, but then Blachowicz does a -2, and then another -4 that he steals from Adesanya, making it still a +6 for diversity and equality. Or so it seems. But if you recognize that this was an event that was put on for the benefits of the capitalist privileged class with Dana White and his supremacists, we will take all the numbers from the exploited minorities and subtract them from the total, giving us a total of -10. So yeah, UFC 259 was a white supremacist promoting event. Surprise, surprise. We hope to see you next week when we analyze the next set of main events. And it's going to be a tough one because we got a black Englishman fighting an American Muslim. Whatever will it be? Tune in next time to find out. I'm Skylar with your SJW MMA breakdown. Thanks. Hey, it's Andrew, and thank you so much for tuning into my first attempt at a comedy MMA video. Like my ex used to say, they can't all be gems, but hopefully some of the shine made it through the cringe, and it made you laugh and smile just a little bit, if anything. It's my very first time trying one of these, and I wrote, recorded, edited, and all that myself one day without putting it on paper, without rehearse, etc. So things can only get better from here as I hone my skills and get a little better with this whole video making thing. Thank you so much for being here with me in this video, and I do hope to see you in more as we do more body language breakdowns, general analysis, statistical analysis of betting, and a whole lot more that we've got planned. So thank you so much. Please click the like, subscribe, notification bell, and share it with your friends. Cheers, ta-ta, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.